Very highly charismatic people have to have the perfect blend of two traits. You must have a perfect blend of warmth and competence. And we talked about this the very, very first time we met, but since then, so much more has come out about it. Very, very smart people make the mistake of showing up as all competent. They try to blow you away with their numbers and their facts and their stats and their data, but they're seen as cold.
Yeah.
They're seen as intimidating. On the other side, you have people who are highly warm. They have competence, but there's not a balance. They show up as highly likable, highly friendly, but they're interrupted. They're told that they're not being taken seriously.
They're not credible.
Right, people forget having met them before. And so I think that all people problems stem from an imbalance between your warmth and competence. And so not only do I think that charisma is essential for being successful, I actually think it's the only way that people will be open to your competence. Two questions that humans ask themselves about the person they're with. And this happens immediately in every interaction. By the way, video too. We forget that this is not just in person. This is happening the moment you pop on video. It's happening the moment someone opens your LinkedIn profile. I did a whole bunch of research on LinkedIn profiles specifically because that's where a lot of our first impressions are happening. Okay, when people see your LinkedIn profile, when people see you on video, on Zoom, the first question they ask themselves, and it is chronological, can I trust you? Basic instinct. The very second question they ask is, can I rely on you? So when you're in a meeting, on a date, in a call, in a pitch, a negotiation on LinkedIn, the two signals that you want to cue people with as quickly as possible is, yes, you can trust me, and yes, you can rely on me. The problem is that most professionals right now are going mute. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but it feels like in the last 5 or 10 years, we've gone towards ambivalence. We've gone towards, I'm not going to show anything. I'm going to be as professional and sterile as possible. And so we've taken out cues from all these assets, and then people have a really hard time trusting us. They have a really hard time listening to us. We wonder why people are slow to reply to our emails. It's because we're not cueing enough. We have to have hundreds of cues to answer those two questions. So here, let's talk about trust first, because it is chronological. We have to trust someone to rely on them. That's why starting with your competence doesn't always work. So trust. So the very first thing, it's a weird one. It's a really weird one that I'm gonna talk about first.
So you don't have to be competent to be trusted.
To be charismatic, you have to be competent and trustworthy.
Okay.
Right? So we want that perfect balance. So really, really successful book covers, just like really successful LinkedIn profile pictures, very quickly signal both trust and competence, right? They both signal both these at the same time, okay? So let's talk about the first one, which is space zones, okay? So the distance between my nose and the camera lens, you can't see it, but in this photo shoot, I made sure that the distance between my space and the camera lens was a certain space. So I wanted to be in what's called the social zone. Okay, so this is not made up by me. This is actually, research is based. There's 4 zones for people. The intimate zone, the personal zone, the social zone, the public zone. Remember that Seinfeld episode you ever saw of close talking?
Yes.
You ever had this where someone walks up like right into your face and like
yes.
talks into your mouth?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's called close talking. And that is the first big rule, intimate zone.
You don't want to be there.
You don't want to be there unless you're about to get intimate. 0 to 18 inches apart is intimate zone, okay? So here's what happens. This is the biggest mistake I'm seeing right now, is we're all on video call all the time.
You're taking photos like this, selfie, like what does that do when you're projecting a video or a photo of that close?
It is literally saying, I want to get close really, really fast. And so if you have someone who's super high warmth, they're like, yes, vulnerability, intimacy, and you're gonna attract those kind of people. But if you have someone who's like, whoa, 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 take a minute, they are turned off. So what's happening is on video calls, you hop on FaceTime, you hop on video or on Zoom, and people are like right up in their camera. Right, their nose and their camera are 10 inches apart, and so someone's like, whoa.
It's too close,
It's too close.
Okay.
So that's the first one, is you wanna respect the space zones. The sweet spot is 1.5 feet to 3 or 4 feet away. That's that social zone. That's where we're making eye contact. If I wanted to reach out and high five you, I could. We're still respecting each other's space. And the personal zone, by the way, is still good, but that's a little bit farther away, right? So that's, you're just starting to get to know each other. When you see someone across the room or a boardroom or a networking event, they're usually about 4 to 7 feet away, which is the next zone, which is the personal zone. Okay. And then you have the public zone, which is obviously from far away. What we like in human behavior is we like someone to come towards us slowly. That's one of the reasons I think we're so burnt out on video. The reason is because it's cueing us in ways that are not natural. In person, I walk into a room, right? Like I walked into the office today and you were waiting, I was like, hi, and then we hugged. That's the way humans like, right? But on video, it's like, whoop, we're here. And that's why we can get so fatigued, is because the cues are unnatural, which actually leads me to the second kind of trust cue that's important.
Yes.
Is when we can't see someone's hands, our brain has a really hard time trusting someone. So I love Shark Tank. Do you know that show? So I wanted to know, watching Shark Tank, was there patterns between the least successful pitches
Interesting.
and the most successful pitches?
This is cool.
Okay, so my team, we analyzed 495 Shark Tank pitches. Yeah. Literally hundreds of hours of Shark Tank, coding every variable we could think of. Entrance, first impression, verbal, eye contact, smiling, interactivity, math deal. I mean, we were looking at everything.
Holy cow.
Okay. One of the biggest differences between the least successful pitches and the most successful pitches was
hands.
Right. So the best pitchers, when they were all the way in the public zone, signaled, "Hey, Sharks."
No way.
And they'd walk into the room, they'd take their place on the carpet, and they'd go, "Good morning, Sharks." They would greet with some kind of hand gesture. The least successful pitchers walked in with, I think they thought they were being humble, but it actually reduced trust. They hid their hands either in fists, behind their backs, in their pockets, or holding a prop. Sometimes accidentally they hid their hands, and they didn't hand greet. That makes it really hard for someone to say, "I can trust you." And that is a primitive part of our brain. Gestures carry more weight than words. So if a pitcher, a Shark Tank pitcher, were to go on and say, "Today I have a really big idea. It's really big," and I hold my hands up like it's really big. It's really small. You're like, "No way, it looks small, Vanessa. It looks so small. It's not big at all." But if I were to say I have three big ideas and hold up 5, you're actually more likely to believe my fingers. So the reason why this is important is because gestures help lower cognitive load.
Interesting.
When I use gesture, I'm more fluent. I'm able to be more competent. I'm able to underline my words. I'm able to say, "This is a really important point. Can I give it to you?" Hand gestures specifically
are key.
They are like our body language highlighter. That's how I want you to think about them. 2 things. One is it's harder for you to process, because gestures are a way that we underline or highlight our words. And so if you are inhibiting your own gestures, you will have a hard time explaining things. They actually did a study where they had people explain 2 versions of a story. One, they could use their hands, and one they couldn't. The one where they could use their hands, they had less pauses, they spoke more quickly, they used bigger words.
Wow.
And the one where they just couldn't, just their hands were just underneath their legs. If you watch the best like cartoon voiceover folks, they are using
animated, right?
Yes, they are using their whole bodies. But like Susan Goldwyn-Meadows' research is called hearing gesture. And that is because I'm using my hands right now, not only for people watching, but also for my folks who are listening. Because I know that the more I use my gestures, the more charisma I have vocally, and I would love to talk about vocal charisma.
Interesting.
So that helps me, but it also helps you. So anyone who's watching, you're getting so much information. They say 12.5 times more information from our gesture.